Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Depends upon when you're listening. Welcome to The Solution. Nothing changes if we change nothing. Good morning, Chevar.
Good morning, Ronnie. Good morning. For those who are new listeners, Ronnie's our director of the New York City Prevention Resource Center. I'm Chevar, the community development specialist here. But we're also co-hosts of this show, The Solution. You probably see it in the background, or you probably see it on the cover art. Nothing changes if we change nothing. Um, we have a really special episode today, and yes, I mean it's a bittersweet type of episode, but more on the sweet. We're going to talk about it, but Ronnie, how are you? I know we just had a holiday weekend.
I had 6 days off, and I have to say, it was nice. I know, sometimes you just need those days where you do absolutely nothing except sit in front of the TV and,
Mhm.
in our case, watch Grey's Anatomy. It's
Mhm.
our annual summer rewatch, and
Nice,
I don't know how I forget so much, but I do. It's like watching it all over again.
nice,
Yeah.
nice.
But how you doing?
I'm cool. I'm cool. Summer's ending. I know. We have we have a few more weeks of warm weather, and I'm still happy about that. But I'm cool, man. I'm happy the sun is out. Anyone who's ever listened to our podcast, been to a training, saw me in person or anything, the sun is. I'm like Superman or a flower. Like the sun is my guiding light, and like I need it, and I worship it. But I don't want to say worship. I appreciate it. I want to say appreciate it.
It lightens you up inside.
No, 100%. It definitely
You know,
does.
you the
Especially
sun's energy.
yes, yes. Especially, I know we're not going to get into this, but especially in the time that we're in right now, I think for me at least, the more sun, the merrier. The more sun, the better. And I think for me, at least, I speak for Chevar, having the sun, having the more light, I think is extremely important. And I know uh, it's cool, like, and being intentional how I engage with the sun. So even if it's, I'm gonna say it, 12 degrees outside. I'm afraid of way too. As long as the sun is outside, I'm afraid of the way. I know in the past, I'm going to share some more insight for those who don't know. I used to do photography heavily, like that was that was something that kept me going, which I want to get back into. I wish I will. I'm rephrase that. We'll get back into it, and I would do acquire pictures. I learned this from photography. Mentor who was very keen on using specific words like shoot, don't say shoot, don't say capture. And that's a whole other discussion. And Ronnie, we'll talk about that. How did I explain what
I
that
like
is?
that.
But I would go out and acquire pictures, especially during the winter time, like in seeing the snowfall and seeing how it was just beautiful. Like how the sun with the sun rays in the winter is a little bit different, but I'm gonna learn how to engage the sun more in the winter of the time. So, yes.
Well, so it's funny you should say that because in 2015 we lived in an apartment in East Atlantic Beach from the end of August through trying to remember when, April, mid-April. And I took the Long Island Railroad from there, and every day I'd go over this bridge and the sun would be coming up.
Mm,
'Cause I'd be leaving, and I every day, almost every single day, I took pictures of the sun coming up or the sun on the water. And I captured the beauty of the water and the sun throughout the year. And then on the way home, I take it of the sun coming down or the way it changed in the sky. So I have these incredible pictures that I took with my phone that reflect 8 months of traveling that way. And
no.
it just yeah, I treasure those pictures because the sun, it does change. I mean, I have pictures of it in the winter, and you see the snow in the background. And I would just, yeah, no, the sun is definitely, for me, I mean, I'm a moon child, I'm a Cancer, but the sun also, I need the sun inside of me, to lighten me up. And like just now, I was out in the backyard with my dog. She was running around. I sat in the shade, but I could appreciate the sun and the blue sky. And I don't mind this kind of summer. It's 75 degrees. It's
No, it's
low
great.
humidity.
It's great. It's great. I'll give it to you. It is great. It is great. It is great.
I could deal with that. But it is, I mean, we're about to go through change. I feel like we're in a constant state of change,
Mhm.
in our lives. And we really are. But we're about to go through a change into fall and other changes that we're going to be talking about a little bit later that, as you said, are bittersweet but exciting and very fulfilling to me.
Absolutely, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, like I'm looking forward to engaging in the sun and not running from it because it's cold outside. I'll get some hot cocoa or whatever, and I'll figure out a way to appreciate the cold sun. You know, because the sun is still there; it doesn't go anywhere. As long as it rises, I'm gonna say not only me, I'm gonna say we're all okay. As long as it rises, we're all okay.
That's right. No matter what happens, there's always another sunrise.
Absolutely. And
And the day that stops, then
yes.
we all stop.
Yes. That's when there's an issue. When the sun doesn't come up, then that's an issue. I mean, I know in some parts of the world, like they have like 8 months of darkness and still like or 6 months of sun. I'm like, that's ridiculous. I need the balance.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Because I wouldn't know when to sleep. I wouldn't know what I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know. But back to our show about prevention and moving forward. But not for nothing. I would say that is a form of prevention, right? How do you engage with certain things, right?
Right.
How do you remove yourself from negative energy and the sun is a preventative form of that negative energy, right? So I would lean in. I mean, for me, I would lean into looking at the sun as a preventative method and being out there, whether you're doing yoga, whether you're painting, walking your dog, frisbee, whatever the case may be, surfing, snowboarding, wherever it is, you're out in the sun. And you do like who doesn't look up at the sun after they during the participation of the activity or at the end of your or at the beginning of the activity, you look like, oh my God, the sun is here. I'm going to enjoy myself. So it's preventing you from whatever vice that you had that deteriorates who you are. The sun is there to rejuvenate you.
There you go. With that being said, happy recovery month to everybody, by the way. It's September. And you just triggered a memory for me. When I first moved to Nashville, Tennessee in 1997, I was living in a private, I don't want to say private, like a gated community development, which are common there. You know, I'm coming from like a rent stabilized apartment in Queens to a place where I have 36 acres.
Okay.
And it's not even one of the luxury ones, but everything felt like luxury to me. In a beautiful apartment with everything I need. And my dog, who was already 10 years old, Marnie, her name was, had never had that kind of open space to run in. And every day I'd let her run through the woods and we would go catch the sunset every day. We'd go catch it because we like had this area where there's a cliff and you can look over trees and scenery and the sun would set. And one day we were running. I was trying to catch that sunset. And I was like, come on, Marty. And I was pulling my dog and making a run and we're running like maniacs. And all of a sudden I realized I missed the sunset. And I was in early recovery at that point. And I was like so let down. And then all of a sudden I had this epiphany. Wait a minute, there'll always be another sunset. And I looked up and there were these colors. I realized there's an afterglow that I've been missing all this time because I've been looking for the sunset. I haven't been looking for what comes after.
Absolutely.
And that, I mean, I've never forgotten that. I think I wrote a poem about it. And just now I don't always look for that sunset. I look for the afterglow. We tend to have tunnel vision and we don't get to see what's around us and the beauty.
Absolutely.
We let us fade.
Yes, there's tons of beauty in the sky, and I agree with you. Seeing that orange hue, that golden hue, the golden hour. It's called the golden hour. The golden hour. Like I learned that from photography. So I mean, I'm pretty sure that it's outside of photography also, but that's how I learned the term. It's the golden hour. It's actually probably the best time to take photography photos. So anyone who's listening, please let the viewers and the listeners know that I am telling the truth. Probably the best time of the day to take photos. It's a great time of the day. But we have a guest, right? Do we let the guest on now?
I think we should. Our guest is probably sitting there saying, what's taking them so long? Why don't we let our guest in?
All right. It'll be in soon enough. Zoom's been zooming, doing its own thing. Hey, there's the individual of the hour, of the day, of the month, of the year, of the decade, of the century,
of the moment.
Of the moment. For one more time as a CDS, can you introduce yourself? CDS is Community Development Specialist, for those who don't know.
I was going to say, my name is Milo. I used to be in programs, and I am, until tomorrow, Community Development Specialist for the New York City Prevention Resource Center.
Thank you, Milo. Thank you for being here. So we before you came on, we talked about this bittersweet moment. And you and I, Kate is another one of our team members, had a really healthy conversation yesterday on our balcony at our agency's office, and I even said to you at the end of it, I wish you did more of that. Well, it was great. But anyway, this is a bittersweet moment, and just walk us through for the listeners, and the viewers, like your time here. Like, talk about it. Say it out loud.
I mean, yeah, it's been great to work with the PRC for the past almost 5 years. It's been 4 years, but it's like 4 years, 9 months, something like that, according to LinkedIn. I mean, it's been great. I started in the pandemic. Very interesting way to start a new job. I initially started, I feel like sometimes I even forget this, that I started only working with our coalition of the Bronx WEPA for a grant that we had with them. And I checked, I did that for like 3 months. And then we got the grant for NYC Pop, and I did that until I was working as a CDS just for NYC Pop until about a year ago. And so for the past year, I've been, the community development specialist at the PRC, and it's definitely been a journey. I mean, it's been great to get to know so many different people through this role, like so many different coalitions, so many different communities. It's been great to work in different like aspects of this team, like different having some different roles. I feel like it's given me a chance to know our coalitions in like multiple different ways, like from working with NYC Pop and kind of working with them as a partner, trying to work towards like this larger citywide goal together. And then now, with the PRC doing mostly just that training technical assistance, but still working together as partners. I mean, it's been a long journey. It's definitely been interesting to, start completely online, transitioning to being hybrid, and now still working hybrid, but I feel like recently we've had a lot more opportunities to be in the community with folks. I feel like I've, in the past like year or so been going to a lot more like in-person events with our coalitions, and that's been great. I mean, I don't know what else to say. It's just been such a great experience to be part of this team, to work with you both, to work with our other colleagues throughout the years that have been part of the team, our larger extended like PRC family. And to be supported by both of you in my growth, both as a person and in my career.
I mean, I have a multitude of questions. I've been talking a lot. I'm gonna let Riley ask the next question because I have a few more questions based on what you were saying, but I'll stop.
Well, actually, it wasn't even a question. It was just an observation because, yes, Milo's worn many hats with the PRC and seen a lot of change and just development, and it's been part of that growth. But we were sharing this morning. I was telling Milo, I said, because we knew Milo from another coalition, which kind of brings you full circle again. Something called the Camp Coalition, which I'm going to let Milo talk about later. But I'd already known Milo from that, and we had this right before COVID. We had a networking event. We always laugh about this, with a lot of interaction and a lot of food. And I remember the week or two after, we were freaking out, like, oh my God, we had everybody practically on top of each other, eating food together, and it worked out okay. But when I got the application for Milo for the position, I immediately got in touch with Chevar and said, has applied. Oh my God, Milo's applied. And I got really excited because I saw from the start, Milo had this incredible talent. And I really wanted him to be a part of our team. And, things didn't work out exactly as we planned, but then another opportunity appeared. So we were able to work it out. And Milo, these almost 5 years, it has just been such an honor and a privilege to watch you grow and learn. You came with mad skills, but you have fine-tuned them, and you've become such a valuable member of, I'm going to say, not just the team, but the PRC family. Because we know we've got a vibe. We were talking about that this morning too, that we're more than a team. We're a family here. And I mean, we still send out inspirational texts to our former members on our phones, and some of them are gone years, but we stayed connected to them. So Chevar, I just had to say that, but I'm excited for Milo. It's really great to see somebody who's from your family go out there and spread their wings and do something on the next level. And that's about to happen. We're going to let you talk about it in a little while, but Chevar's getting antsy about that.
Definitely. I mean, part of the question, and like Marlon said, I'll hold that question up later. It's more about your new role. But let's talk, because you said, again, I always practice as a listener too. So you talked about things you learned from this role. what are some of let's do this. Let's take it old school. We haven't done this in a while. What's it called? What's grows and glows? Share some of your grows and glows. Don't even let's forget about the grows. Let's focus solely on the glows. Like, what are your takeaways from this role that you think you could apply, even like things you've learned as a CDS, as a person who's done training and given technical assistance that so you know what? I learned this is what I'm gonna apply, whether it's in your personal life or in your new position. If you can, please share it.
I mean, first of all, thank you both for having me on. Like, I'm, really like appreciative of all of like, it's been a lot, like, kind of, getting ready to leave and like, but it's been so nice to, speak with the team about, what it's meant to work together for the past 2 years. And I'm just really appreciative of all of the gratitude and the appreciation I've received over the past 2 weeks. I mean, for me in this role, I was already working with I worked in a coalition before this, but like I said, like I started all this in the pandemic, so I feel like something that I really had to like grow around is, I think all of us like working in, during the pandemic completely online, like, for context, before I worked for the PRC, I worked for a coalition in Brooklyn, and I was in that role for like 2 months before maybe 3 months before the pandemic started and everything was online. This was a new coalition, and so it was like a lot of changes like all at once. Um, and I think that's something that I've really had to like something I really like learned and grew around is just like how to transition from completely online to like in person to do this work like together. Um, Also, just, I feel like the biggest lesson I've taken from this job and, from this work is that it's not easy, but it's worth it. Like, working to prevent substance misuse is not easy, but it's worth it. Like, working in your community is not easy, but it's worth it. Like, working together on a community level, borough level, city level isn't easy, but it's like worth it. Like, it's worth everything that is so difficult and challenging at times. Nothing ever changes overnight. And I think in prevention, we're always saying that what's so hard is that we don't often see like the fruits of our labor necessarily, but because these changes happen years, decades down the line. Um but I still feel like it's very rewarding work, even though, our data is not always showing us, the changes overnight, right? That we want to see, that our funders want to see, whatever, but we see it. Like, I think what I've loved in this role is seeing coalitions grow and change over time, see how, projects really take off, watch coalitions that maybe struggle to get their project off the ground, like really succeed. Like, I think that what I've really enjoyed in this role is getting to have that supportive hand of, a coalition has a dream that they want to fulfill, and how do we help them put the pieces together to get there? I think that's what I really like learned from this role is that none of that change, it doesn't happen overnight and doesn't happen with one person alone. And that's what I'm really excited to like take into my new role is like all of these lessons of like none of these things can be changed by just one person. It has to be people coming together. It has to be a coalition working together to make that change. And so I feel like that's one of those things that I'm really going to take moving forward is that, you know, I'm not going to do it alone. We don't do it alone. Like, we do it together, and that's what makes it work. So that for me is the biggest like overarching lesson. I mean, there's always small things like how to use constant contact, like kind of like things like that. But I mean, like real things, like that's what I've really learned. It's just like how we do this and how we need to do it together.
Oh, that's not a small thing, Carson. No, not there are a ton of people who can't use constant contact. So, and the fact that you perfected it, and I would say to you, take that as a skill that you can use moving forward. But definitely, you said something to me, and if I'm here, I'm listening again, and people are listening. Well, people will be listening, and there are some of us who want to start a coalition or in a coalition or who may be struggling, right? And you talked about it not being only you. Can you give aspiring or current coalition coordinators any bit of advice or what are things that you want to do? Let's start. What are you going to do to develop your coalition? And then what do you want to advise aspiring coordinators or current coordinators? Let's start with those two things.
Definitely. I don't know if you guys saw, sorry, but my new role will be like leading and starting a new coalition in the Bronx. We, like Ronnie mentioned earlier, we have this like camp grant to the Department of Health that funds coalitions throughout the city to prevent substance misuse among LGBTQ plus youth. So we have a new coalition that's been funded in the Bronx, and I'm going to be leading that coalition, managing that coalition. And I mean, I feel like there's not like one like right or wrong way. I think that every community is different, but I think that what's really important to remember as a coalition leader is that like on one hand, like your role is to try to figure out how to make the coalition successful, like how trying to put those pieces together, right? But at the end of the day, like the successes come from working together. So, I mean, one thing that I would say to like other coalitions, and we all say this, is that like you have to find the people that are going to get you there, right? You have to find the people in the community that share that vision with you. The vision, the mission is what we create together, right? Like you as an individual might have one vision for the coalition. But once you find those people that are all working towards that same goal, getting them together in a room and really thinking about like how are we going to do this and how are we going to do it together, I think is the big one. And, I mean, things change over time, like communities change over time. So maybe a coalition's been around for a few years, maybe there are things that are not working there. Always going back and seeing like who's in our community that could help us. Like, are there like organizations or people in the community that are champions that we just haven't brought on yet because maybe they're newer, maybe they haven't, maybe they weren't around when the coalition first started. I think always like finding those people and then always remembering that again, like, as a coordinator, as a coalition manager, like your role is definitely to help the coalition succeed, but the coalition succeeds together. And so as a coordinator, your job is really just to figure out like, how do we put those pieces together? How do I help our members, see the vision, put the plan into action, right? Like we make sure everything's written down, there are timelines set in place, but at the end of the day, like the work gets done together. So really just trying to figure out how are we going to do that together. And again, there's no like always like I think sometimes people want like a formula of how it's done, but it's going to be different for every community. Depending on what community you're working in, what population you're working with, it's always going to be different. But just remembering that, we're here to serve our community. So also listening to that, always listening to what the people we're serving want us to do, what their visions are, what their, issues are that they want to deal with. I think kind of always going back to some of that was really important too.
Yeah, and if I could jump in there, I mean, you hit some really important key points. And, a big word that jumps at me all the time is champions, and together. Because very often, and isn't anybody's fault, but it's just, you want to see a coalition succeed. People get funding or they've had a coalition for years and they want to keep going and they wind up doing it. The coordinators will just, rather than wait or let things kind of slow down, they'll do it themselves or the paid staff because it's a process. It doesn't just happen overnight. And very often a coalition that's been, really powerful in the community goes through a change where suddenly their members are not as involved. And it's important to be able to address those changes and not get comfortable with the way things are. I'd say on an annual basis, it's important to do a coalition checklist and find out what's going on and with your members to get their perceptions anonymously so you can move forward and change things. We do like a SWOT analysis, but it's exciting to start a new one too, because the energy and the excitement of a new coalition is always like this first high. Again, it reminds me of being in recovery. I'm hitting that season where I'm coming up on an anniversary in October, and this is National Recovery Month. But this pink cloud, everybody's excited. Boom, we're going to be part of it, and then all of a sudden, there's reality hitting, and not everybody's available anymore, and it's not like they thought it was going to be. And now you find yourself with fewer members, and this is letdown. But that letdown's part of the process because we build relationships. And as far as I'm concerned, somebody said to me, "What are coalitions about?" The number one thing is building relationships. And we know my mantra, it takes 3 to 5 years on the average, not everyone, but most of the time to build a viable coalition where people are really involved because you've got to have the ups and downs. If you don't, it's not part of the growth process. And there's a false idea about the coalition. But the one thing that was said to me many years ago when I ran the Overdose Prevention Project in Portland, Maine, by one of our founding members. He was the director of the ER department. This is when we started to see opioid overdoses really skyrocket. And at that time, they were far less than they are now. But it was an alarm that was set off. And he said, sometimes you have to get small again before you get big again. And, it's people really have to keep that in mind. It's gonna ebb and flow. There are gonna be times that you're on this big high because everyone's involved. And then it's all you and one other person, if you're lucky. So I think you made some really important points. And again, be willing to fall. you don't always have to be on the same level. I mean, I say to store coordinators all the time, if nobody's going to step up to the plate, then don't let it get done. But they've got grants that they have to, address. So it's a tricky balance. But I just wanted to put that out there. But I mean, what do you think will be the first thing or the first few things you want to do to develop those relationships in the community, Milo?
I mean, that's a really good question. I think it's a combination of like meeting, well, here, this is the thing is that, like you said, there is a grant in place. So there are supposed to be, there's folks that have already, organizations that have signed on to partner with us to do this. So definitely part of it is going to be meeting those people, talking about why did they agree to do this work? Like what excites them about the idea of this new coalition? Like why did they sign on as part of the grant to be one of our partners? Like what is it? What is their vision? I want to get a sense of first folks that have already been invested in this before I was even, mentioned in the conversation. Like what were their ideas about why they wanted to do this? Like what excites them? Because I think especially like you said, Ronnie, like when you're starting something new, people are very excited. So I want to first know like what is it about this that excites them? What is the work that they want to see done? I also want to connect with other folks in the Bronx that maybe, have heard about this or maybe haven't heard about this that need to be at the table. I want to make sure we have all 12 sectors. Of course, I want to make sure we have all of our sectors represented. So I'm going to, first start by looking at, who has signed on to be part of this, building those relationships, trying to then identify some of those gaps of like, who's not at the table yet that, hasn't agreed to sign on. How can I reach out to them? How can I find them in the community? And then I'm also really excited to keep working with some of the, partners we already have here, the coalitions we already work with, like leaning on those existing relationships as well. Even for, I definitely want to I want to work with a lot of, well, I mean, I would love to work with everybody, but, still trying to find, folks that I know in the Bronx or that do similar work with LGBTQ plus youth and figure out ways that we can keep working together, that we can build, new partnerships together. Even for folks that are not in the Bronx, New York is a city of, millions of people. We don't all just stay in one place. I mean, I personally live in Brooklyn, work in Manhattan, soon the Bronx. Like, we all move around. So I'd also love to, attend other coalition meetings throughout the city and see if there are partners there that are connected to the Bronx, whether they live there, they work there, see if they'd like to be part of our work as well. So I think it's a combination of building new relationships with folks that have an idea of, what this coach is going to be and are excited about it. Get folks excited that have not heard about it yet, but definitely need to be at the table. And then also leaning on some of those relationships that I already have in this field and trying to, build new partnerships, find new ways that we can all collaborate together. Because at the end of the day, this is all one work. This is all the same work. And so finding ways to build those bridges between, coalitions I already have, organizations we're already connected with, and new folks in the community that might not know about this coalition, but they would be excited to join us.
Thought I unmuted myself. So you mentioned that you're going to be starting a coalition. You mentioned in the Bronx. We didn't say where in the Bronx. Because again, as a listener, what if I want to participate? What if I want to get to know more? You didn't say where in the Bronx. You didn't say the agency in the Bronx, right? Did you say? Do we have a name of our coalition? Like,
Yeah.
talk to us. We like,
Yeah,
where are you going to be?
Yeah, I mean, so we don't have a name for the coalition. This grant, there's no like geographic boundaries in the Bronx that we have. Like it's not only the North Bronx or only the South Bronx. Like we can be anywhere in the Bronx. It's really the focus is to serve LGBTQ plus youth in the Bronx. So wherever they are in the Bronx, we can be. I'll be working for the Neighborhood Association for Intercultural Affairs. The office I'll be in is in Mount Eden in the Bronx. But like I said, like for the coalition itself, there's no like specific boundary geographically. It's just the Bronx. So anywhere in the Bronx, I would love to be anywhere in the Bronx that our population is, that our community is, that the LGBTQ plus youth and young adults we're trying to serve are. And I'm really excited to kind of map that all out. No, there is no name yet, but definitely I think one of the important things I'm trying to do in the beginning is get that established, get a name established, get people excited about the name. Coalitions. There have been some great presentations at CADGA in the past about like how to run your coalition like a business. Branding is a big thing. So making sure people know your name making sure it's one that's memorable, getting that established very quickly so we can go to events, so we can go to other organizations in the Bronx and say, this is who we are, is what we're trying to do. Do you want to join us? Like that's definitely one of my main priorities, getting that established. Like what is our mission? What is our vision? Why are we all at the table? What are our core goals and core values? And what's our name? Putting that all together. Like, I mean, again, I said there's no formula, but at the same time, getting those basic things done in the very beginning, the mission, the vision, your one pager, your welcome pack, like getting all of those like logistical things out of the way in the very beginning makes it really easy to go to new partners, to go to organizations, community events, and say, this is who we are. So what we want to do. Like, do you want to join us? And what is exciting, kind of to go back to the business thing, is that like, when it's a new coalition, if you get in on the ground floor, so to say, you get, to help shape what it looks like. You get to help kind of shape those goals and that vision. So I'm hoping to kind of pitch it that way to people. We are new, and if you have a very clear goal, very clear vision for what you want to see, brought to LGBTQ plus youth in the Bronx to prevent substance misuse, you get to kind of help us shape that and mold that. And I think that for some folks, that is very exciting. So I'm hoping that we can kind of establish some of those logistical things very early on to make a name for ourselves. Because that's really going to that's always a key for success, is if people don't know who you are and what you do, it's hard to get your name out there. It's hard to get people on board for something, and I think that can often be a struggle for folks that start something out of a grant, is that, it's not just about, fulfilling grant deliverables. It's more than that. It's about building a conceivable vision for what you want to change in the community and how you want to do it. So those are some of the things I'm trying to, accomplish very early on. And I'm hoping that by, getting hopefully a good name. I did, the last coalition I worked with, Brooklyn, yes, I did help them create the name. So I'm hoping that we can work some magic again. Although I worked with some great folks there that helped us, uh, workshop things. So, but I'm really excited. I'm really excited to, be working with LGBTQ plus youth and young adults in the Bronx.
So,
I'm sorry.
go for it.
I mean, we know that you don't have an email yet there, so I'm going to say that if people want to find out about what's going on, they could email us and we can, send it to you. And because it's going to be a little while before you have that, but we'll have that information. So don't be shy about reaching out to us, because we want to make sure that you can connect with Milo.
And definitely in the description, once we get the email, might not be in the end credits, but in the description, I can add it to the description, and it will change throughout all platforms that our podcast is on. So you'll definitely have a way to reach out to Milo through us at the beginning, and later on, a few weeks from now, you'll have a direct line to Milo and figure out what that support or connection looks like. And Milo, I'm like sitting here, I'm like, TA, what is TA? What do you think TA would look like?
I know we're like, oh, we're excited.
I mean, do you think it would be easier because we don't know each other? Like, what are your concerns?
I mean, I think it's going to be interesting. To my knowledge, I don't think we've ever done TA for a coalition where the coalition lead or coordinator was a PRC.
Oh, well, no, we haven't.
All right.
That's
so definitely new. I mean, I hope that the fact that I've worked here for 5 years helps. I don't have what I'm excited, I think what we should all be excited about is I don't have to take the SAPs. I already did it. I did it. I have all of the formal training and background in prevention. I think hopefully that will make it easier to get to the heart of whatever the issues are, and again, I can't really see the future. You always hope that everything is perfect and works out, but at least I hope for me that, our TA going forward, it doesn't have to be so much about learning what prevention is and how it works in a coalition.
Yeah.
Okay. I know how coalitions work. It'll be more like the nuts and bolts of here's what's happening. Here are the partners you've been, had difficulty reaching out to, or I think it'll be more technical, to be honest, less about learning the fundamentals and more about getting to the heart of whatever those specific issues are when they come up. You always hope everything is perfect. There's never any issues, but that's not how life works. Definitely hoping we can meet before the first coalition meeting. But again, I'm a very eager person. I'm hoping to get that meeting out very soon, getting all this out there. So I don't know. I mean, hopefully we'll be meeting for TA soon, but again, I'm really eager to move things forward really quickly with this coalition because I think, a lot of folks are hearing about it and you just want to get things off the ground really quickly to make it successful.
Well, we'll be reaching out like, okay, what day, what time? But it's when we think about it, it's almost like, hey, funders, put somebody in the PRC for several years and then give them money to start a coalition. Or just make that part of their training and orientation. Spend 6 months shadowing the PRC. Hint, hint. But anyway, no, it's I think what a great way to prepare somebody, because now you can kind of stop and say, okay, what would I say as a CDS with the PRC? And what would I say to myself, the coalition manager? So it's a very interesting perspective. In 6 months, we're going to come back and we're going to revisit this because I want to see how that played out. It's got to make a huge impact on you. Are the most well-prepared person to go in there and start a coalition. I mean, you've been telling people how to do this for a long time now. And I'm just, that's actually kind of thrilling, isn't it? All right. Well, I don't want, any more CDF
Code. It's a cheat code.
It is, right? But the other PRCs are probably listening and saying, no, don't tell them to go and take a job as a coalition coordinator. I need them. But we were very blessed to have you with us for almost 5 years. I mean, we've had a very strong team. But I was just thinking about that. That's going to be cool. We definitely will be reflecting on this in the future. And I know that Chevar and Kate and I will be talking about it a lot as well.
No, it's definitely a cool setup, Milo. I think to your point, for anyone who's listening, when you have these skills, and I'm referring to what Milo was talking about, the TAs being more technical. I think there'll be more intentionality when we come to our meetings. There'll be more direct conversation about what's needed to be done. Right, and then you'll have your time to share what's on your mind. Also, I'm not gonna ever take that away from someone, but it'll be definitely hey, what are the 3 things you want to get covered? And Milo will come in with the 3 things. Like, listen, what are we doing here? Let's just get out of here. Let's get it done. I think, like Ronnie said, like I said, this is your cheat code. So we're expecting for you to be you. We're expecting you to be you.
Well, I was gonna say, Chevar, you don't have to tell me that. I need to give you 3 things, and you have to. I know this. The next steps at the end. I got the. I know.
What's the next steps?
I know the template. I know. So we don't got to do that. We already know. I already know all of that. But I mean, I'm excited again. Like we kind of said at the beginning. I am sad to leave. It's very bittersweet. But again, I get to still work with you guys in a new capacity. So and it is super full circle. Like I came to this role from a coalition on the same grants. A friend joked to me recently, they're like, you really can't get away from this grant. I'm like, nope, I cannot. Like, because again, at the end of the day, like this work is so important to me. Like working in prevention is important to me. Working at the community level is important to me. And, working within the LGBTQ plus community is also like a huge passion of mine. So for me, this is like, it's very full circle, and I'm really excited to see how things change and grow, moving forward with all of us.
I know it's short on time, but you said something a moment ago about the importance of prevention. Before you get out of here, can you give us some words of wisdom on why prevention is important to you and why should it be important to others?
I mean, prevention, these are like the seeds that we plant for the next generation. Like, these are the seeds that we plant in the community that we don't get to see flower immediately, but make all the change in the long run. Like when you're preventing substance misuse from occurring in the first place, this is why it's so hard to track, because the problems don't develop, like the issues related to substance misuse aren't developing later in life. So it can be hard to track the difference because you're preventing something from occurring in the first place. The seeds that we plant in prevention, we're not always going to see those flowers grow. But we get to see person that's like so important to our community, because again, people don't always know what's been prevented if they're not, if the issue hasn't occurred in the first place. I mean, that's to me why it's so important, is that we're saving lives. I mean, it's kind of the spiel you always hear in prevention. We save lives, we save money, we save time, and I think what's also great about coalition work is that you're building like a community foundation. Like you're building something that can benefit the community in so many ways. What I'm so excited about for this like grant in particular is we get to provide new opportunities to LGBTQ plus youth that they wouldn't have had otherwise. Like so often prevention, people think it's like dare or things like that, but it's more than that. It's the work that we do in our communities to change them for the better in so many aspects, not just telling people what to do and what not to do, but to really like make a difference in, people's lives in the long run. So to me, that's why it's so important and why it's something I'm, so invested in, so committed to.
You summed that up really well, and I think you made some really salient points in there. And you know, one of the things that we sometimes forget is that you don't have to be funded to have a coalition. Um, it helps to get funded because you can put the pieces in place, but it's not a necessity. It's not a requirement. Coalitions are really community based, and if the community gets involved and is invested in the mission, that's really where it's at. That's the value right there. So it's just we have to keep that in mind. Building that community base is crucial. We know it's harder in New York City because so much is funded and there's wraparound services, whereas maybe in a more rural environment, the coalition becomes like the infrastructure for even public health and other programs. But it's really important. And we've seen over the years, there have been community-based coalitions in New York City that have made major changes. But the other piece too is the thing that, I always reflect on this about the long-term benefits of it. Look, there have been studies done. They say you say for every dollar spent on prevention, you save between $7 and $13 down the road. Is that in 10 years? Is that in 20? Is that in 30? We don't know. But again, it's affecting and saving lives. And you can't measure that. And that's been part of it. But, for me, I've been in prevention a long time, uh, since 1989. And, I still see some of my former students that when I left New York in 97, I see them now on social media all the time. And I can say that at least 90, maybe percent or more have become productive members of society. Their lives have worked out. And these are young people everybody gave up on, but they got involved in prevention and we cared about them. We loved them. We created, some type of infrastructure for them many, many years ago. And they've all made it in life and what they choose to do. Yeah, and it's just really wonderful to see that like 25 years later. And Chevar always tells a story about that too. You run into that person, that young person you worked with all those years before, and you see them with their kids and their life. And what we're doing is everybody working together, not one of us, but a whole bunch of people working together to give people a way to move forward and a path to success in life. And that's not measured by dollars. It's not measured by title. It's measured by what's inside of you and where you go with your life. So that's how we know prevention works. Those are the stories we need to record. The data may not always be there for us to use, but we know it works. And that's why these testimonials are really important. And now I'll practice wait.
So, Milo, we always have a question, and I think we asked this question before, but we're going to revisit this question. It's a little bit different. We don't ask it as often, but remember your younger self, right? Remember that person. What conversation, if you were, let's reverse this. Before was, what would your younger self say to you? Now let's have this conversation reverse. What would you say to your younger self? What would that conversation look like if you were able to meet your 13-year-old self, your 9-year-old self? What would that conversation look like? What would you say to yourself?
I think it would really just be that, you don't have like things not going the way you think they will is what makes your life better in the long run. Like I don't know how else to say it, but like you don't have to have a plan for everything, and that's like what makes life so fun and enjoyable is that like the things that you might think you might do in the future may not.
Milo froze. So I will talk until Milo comes back.
Oh, you do a little filibuster. Right?
Absolutely. And I think Milo is saying something profound. I'll try to text Milo to let Milo know that he froze. But no, this is great stuff, and I'm pretty sure what Milo is saying is amazing. And I think the universe isn't ready for Milo to talk to his younger self. we're gonna get this conversation going. Well, look, I'm texting Milo. You are frozen.
It happens, that's the thing with technology. A lot of times it fails us, but we're here to. I mean, we have so much to talk about, and we have so much inspiration going on. And right now, it's just Chevar and me, but we are excited, and it's always exciting to us to see a new coalition start. It's not easy getting them started. We go into communities and we really work for years, and sometimes nothing comes out of it. But we've got some coalitions that I've been going into those communities when I started in 2014 here. With the PRC, and then people afterwards kept showing up in those communities. And finally, we see a coalition come out of there after like 8, 9 years of everybody trying to work it out. So it takes time to develop those infrastructures, to develop that foundation. It's like a house. If you build the foundation in a cheap way and you don't supply enough support, and you don't let it organically come together with specific plans. I don't want to just say, hey, let's build a house. But you got to do it in the right way. If that foundation is not solid, the house isn't going to last. It's going to fall apart. That's why it's foundational first. I always say that to a lot of people. I think, why not just give first seed grants or foundation grants to coalitions to start? Give them a 3 to 5 year foundation grant, then fund them to be up and running coalition, because it takes that long. Unless you're already in the community and you've already got the infrastructure in place. People have been talking. They're really excited. They're ready to move forward. It takes passion. It takes
Absolutely. It does take passion. A lot of things, and if for most things to move forward, for that, I don't want to say most things, lots of things, you have to have some sort of, actually most things, you have to have some sort of passion to push forward. You have to love it or care about it or even despise it, passionately despise it to get something to move forward. Milo's Wi-Fi went out, so I doubt Milo will be back.
But that's okay, because Milo said so much, and
Yes.
and just what you're saying too. Very briefly, we have a coalition in the Bronx, WEPA, and the Reverend Addie Banks has been involved in community organizing coalition building since the 70s. And when the Bronx was on fire in the 80s, I guess 70s, 80s, 90s, she was on the ground floor of getting a coalition together. People came together. It was the 80s, I guess. And they started addressing why the Bronx was literally burning down. And they were passionate, and that was a time to strike while the iron is hot. So if you're thinking of starting a coalition or joining one, look at the issues and make sure that the issue that you're all deciding to focus on is one that ignites people's hearts and their souls and their spirits, and that they're ready to make happen. We call that community readiness. It doesn't matter how many resources you have. If the community's not ready, it's just not going to happen yet.
Milo's trying to come back. Milo's texting me. If Milo can't come back, it's totally fine. But Milo's trying to come back. But everything Ronnie said is true. It's so important, setting that foundation. And the foundation is important to a lot of things, And I'm going to take something from the saps. When you're making a cake, you need all these different specific ingredients to make sure that cake is not only made, but also tasty, light, airy, flavorful. Yeah, absolutely. All of the above, because otherwise you'll have a brick.
The way I bake. I know what. You got to make sure all the ingredients are there. I think we're gonna laugh is what you're trying to say. Is that correct?
Yes. So you gotta make sure all the ingredients are there to make sure that anything in life, whether it's coalition work, working on yourself, being a parent, going to school, starting a business, starting a coalition, all the above, you need to figure out what those ingredients look like and be intentional about those ingredients. So, and I'm gonna use a trigger word, equities. Looking at each item and understanding each item or person and understanding their purpose and how much they're able to give. Like you don't need 7 cups of flour.
Right.
You don't need 8 cups of milk or 12 eggs, depending on the size of the cake. But it's about equity and figuring out what's needed in that cake or in that relationship with your coalition, whether it's You have law enforcement, how much they can put into it. You have parents, what are their role in your coalition? So it's a lot. So looking into that, I don't know I use the trigger word. We might get flagged, but it is what it is.
But when we say equity in our coalition level, we mean that all the members are contributing and that it isn't one person carrying the load. And it's sharing that load. And also another thing is to be willing to make mistakes.
Milo back. Let's let Milo get it. Let Milo get his thumb out.
I'm so sorry, guys. My entire Wi-Fi went out.
It's all good. Let's get to it. You were saying it to your younger self.
Yes, to my younger self. Okay, things don't. You need to have a plan for everything. Things don't need to work out the way you think they will. It's what makes life enjoyable. I never considered public health as a career. I didn't even know what it was. I didn't have any plan when I went to college of what I wanted to do. I had some ideas. I thought I wanted to be a lawyer, and in the long run, I think that things work out the way that they're supposed to. Like, you end up where you're supposed to be. And I think just like letting that happen, not worrying about, how it's going to work out, not worrying about, living up to high expectations you may have set for yourself. Things just work out the way they're supposed to, and you find the path that you're supposed to be on. So that is what I'd say to my younger self. And I'm sorry about the Wi-Fi stuff. Thank you for waiting for me to come back.
That's so good.
It's okay. And you know what? We're going to do something we've never done. We're going to keep Milo around for the closing.
Absolutely. So, Milo, you want to say one more? Well, you've never said bye as a CDS, but this will be your first and last time as a CDS. You want to close us out?
How do I close this out? What you got? A closing phrase? You got
Hi.
Pretty much, the name of the show and our tagline, right?
Well, everybody, this is the solution. Nothing changes if we change nothing. Goodbye for now.
All right. Well, and we'll see you later.
See you later, guys.